We've been on this farm for about 6 years now, and all together it's about 8.8 acres. We have about 1.5 acres of pasture. We rent about another 1.5 acres as well, and a little bit of pasture out there for some every now and then grazing. What kind of animals we have?
I'm Natalie, and I raise mostly goats. These are a fainting goat or a myotonic goat, and we also have some chickens, horses, ducks, a potbelly pig, but mostly the goats. So my husband, for about 2 to 3 weeks straight, was researching trees and looking into trees, really wanted to plant trees out there, but again, I just kept asking, like, how much is this going to cost? I don't think we can handle this.
I met Jamal and Natalie about 2 years ago. Part of my project in Salisbury Township was visiting all the farms and determining any best management practices, conservation practices that they'd like to implement, and interest. And visiting with Jamal that day, he was very interested in Riparian Buffer.
Excited is a very good word. Yes, I was very excited to hear that there is a possibility this actually is going to happen. The financial help from organizations like Lancaster Farmland Trust, all the organizations involved with Chesapeake Bay as well, it's going to start getting to happen. So where did all this start? I'm actually a teacher at Pequot Valley Intermediate School. I teach STEM. Just like through all that, I learned about riparian buffers. That's just an area of vegetation along a stream. I got interested, and happenstance to met somebody from the Chesapeake Bay Watershed Foundation at Lampeter Strasburg Fair. Got some information, got brochures, got a contact, and started realizing, hey, planting trees is something we actually can do. Help the stream. I can teach school, but also can be just good for the family farm here. Later on, Gordon Hoover from the Lancaster Farmland Trust came on the property, said, hey, we have a project here. What do you think? I said, let's go.
Lancaster Farmland Trust started a partnership in Salisbury Township, and as part of that project, we selected a stream, the White Horse Run, and we decided that we'd like to work at delisting that stream and improving the water quality. As you can see what a buffer looks like behind me, basically a riparian buffer is planting trees up to 35 feet along either side of the stream. And that does a lot of beneficial things, not only for the stream, but also for the surrounding buffer area along the stream.
On the far side of the creek, it's very smushy, almost swampy. Hopefully, or what part of the goal of the trees is to take up some of that moisture and transpire into the atmosphere. It also helps take from the flooding. It's not going to flood as often, or it'll flood as often, but not quite as severe. So it's hopefully going to help the parts upstream as well with the moisture. But also the wildlife. We're already starting to see more wildlife than we have even a few years ago. A mink is the most recent one. We were seeing a mink, and I know it's not good for the fish, but we're seeing a mink and heron, muskrat, even other birds. We're seeing they're going to take advantage of the eventual forage availability from the forest here.
A lot of different trees are planted, a lot of different bushes are planted, so you can harvest berries and nuts, a lot of wildlife, so it really creates a beautiful environment, not only for the community, but for the farmer and the landowner themselves.
So these trees are going to help shade, keeping the temperatures down, helping all the aquatic life survive. Because once it reaches a higher temperature, the aquatic life starts to die off.
Aquatic life does a great job of filtering the stream, so nutrients that might make it into the stream from the surrounding cropland. And the other thing is, on these farms in the township, as you have agriculture practices in the fields, any runoff that may occur off those fields in a rainstorm gets caught within these trees and shrubs and grass buffer areas, and they help to filter a majority of, especially the solids, the sediment that comes out of those fields. We're here today on the Blank family farm in White Horse in eastern Lancaster County. It might be hard to explain it, but this is how this farm impacted their property, because this water went right down the waterway, and before they built this, it was just a sloppy, stinky, swampy mess. We've done some significant conservation improvements on this farm, some best management practices. The Blank family milks about 35, 40 cows, and that has changed over the years. I remember an owner previously here where they only milked 15 cows, and so the herd size has increased. The farmland on the farm consists of about 60 acres, and on those acres he raises all the feed for the cattle. But a 40 cow dairy doesn't generate quite enough cash flow for the average family to survive. So the Blank family has done what a lot of small farms have done for years and years. They've diversified. So last winter they put up a greenhouse. So in that greenhouse, to supplement their dairy income, they're also raising vegetables, raising bedding plants and potted plants that they sell from a retail stand here along the road. And any excess they have, they take to a fruit and vegetable auction. Lancaster Farmland Trust has been very active in Salisbury Township, where we're located, implementing and doing a lot of farmer-to-farmer outreach regarding conservation practices. These farmers are actively milking cows or raising livestock and farming crops. That's what they do every day, all the time. And so the conservation side of this, the conservation practices, conservation organizations, the funding, can be a very complicated process. And what we do at Lancaster Farmland Trust is to help be an advocate, be a counselor or a consultant for these farmers to help them through the process. Talk to them in layman's terms, help them connect the dots, and so that a lot of the partners that we use are not only the Lancaster County Conservation District and DEP, EPA, but also private consultants like Team Ag.
Actually, we're always amazed at how progressive and proactive farmers in Lancaster are, and Salisbury Township is at the forefront of that for sure. Just some of the soil quality practices that farmers are adapting with the no-tilling, cover cropping, that's really made a big impact for nutrient sediment reductions, as well as the structural BMPs also. Team Ag's a private consulting firm in Ephrata in Lancaster County, and we are a private company that does conservation and nutrient planning. We would write conservation plans and nutrient plans, and then if the landowners are interested in installing the BMPs, our engineers would survey and design the practices and do the designs and be involved in the inspections to certify that the projects that got installed meet the Pennsylvania state standards.
So here on the Blank Farm, in 2018, we worked with Team Ag, one of our partners, as we do this conservation outreach, implemented some best management practices to improve water quality off the farm. So this farm sits in the middle of the little village of White Horse, and actually a lot of the water from the fields runs down towards the barn and then runs down through the little village of White Horse.
Before we did the project, David had some resource concerns that involved a lot of erosion and sediment running down his field lanes because of the steep slope. He also had a limited amount of manure storage, so he was applying manure at all times of the year when it probably wasn't best for the environment, also for the nutrient requirements of his crops. He also had a lot of stormwater running through the heavy use area that was transferring manure-laden water down through his neighbor's property as well. The manure storage provides 6 months of manure storage for David so that he is able to manage and store the waste from the farm that's created so that he can apply manure, number one, in an environmentally friendly manner, so he's not spreading when it's snow-covered, frozen ground, but also it's allowing him more flexibility as a manager to spread manure when the crops need it most. With the roofed manure solid stacking structure, basically a three-sided concrete wall. Usually the walls are going to be 4 feet high, and then posts going on top of that, and the truss going on top of that, where there might be 12, 14, or 16 feet from the finished floor of the concrete to the bottom of the truss. He's able to stack a lot of the dry, stackable manure, the heifer manure, the manure from the mules, and stack it under a roof, so when it does rain, there's no runoff leaving the concrete barnyard. And some of the structures for water controls we did include a rock-lined waterway that protected the the runoff that goes down a steep slope next to his access road. We had done some inlet boxes, some spoutings and downspouts, as well as, you know, concrete slatted crossing through that swale.
A project like we're looking at in this farm, with a 6-month manure storage, a covered barnyard area for housing and so forth, can cost anywhere from $250,000 to $400,000, and that's just requires a huge cash flow that a lot of our small farms just can't handle. So this is where Lancaster Farmland Trust, in organizing some of this outreach and working with other partners to help get funding and help get projects implemented, is just playing a crucial role in Lancaster County meeting its water quality goals that have been established for us through the Chesapeake Bay Watershed Improvement Program. This farm, obviously you can't see a sky view of it, but there's no stream on this farm. So why is it important to improving water quality in the community? Well, the reason is, not more than 100 yards away from where we're actually filming this is the closest stream. And there's 3 properties, residential properties, between here and the stream. So a lot of the work that's been done on the Blank family farm here was to capture water on the farm, keep it on the farm.
Well, I think if there's any way, as a designer and a conservation planner, if there's any way that Team Ag and our partners can balance the environmental benefit and performance of the farm as well as the economic performance of the farm, that's always a good spot to be at. I think that's what we call a win-win, where maybe the landowner may not be thinking about water quality benefit as much, but if you can connect the dots with the economic performance of the farm through the conservation practices that we're presenting, that's going to be a light bulb moment for the producers. And again, that's a goal we have, and I would say for most projects we can say we've done that.
We hope in the next 2 years to have the whole stream planted with riparian buffers, fencing to fence cattle out, putting improved crossings in for cattle to cross the streams without damaging the banks and causing erosion. And also a number of the dairy farms on the stream, we're also providing funding for manure storage facilities, barnyard improvements to keep nutrients from leaking into the waterways. If you go back into the early 1900s, there was a lack of conservation practices on farms. That was the period of the first golden era of agriculture, where grain prices shot through the roof. Farmers started plowing uphill and downhill and every which way, and we saw a huge amount of erosion occur on a lot of these farms. Also at the same time, in the late 20s, early 30s, we saw the Dust Bowl era in the Midwest. Those activities led to the conservation movement as we know it today. So in that time period, from then to now, which is almost 100 years, we've actually seen a lot of healing of the land across the country.